Benny Williams is coming back, Chris Bell is coming back, and now I may be hearing Hunter Dickinson in the transfer portal. This Adrian Autry era is off to a wild start. All this and more coming up on the Dawg podcast.
We want to be versatile on both ends of the floor. We want to be aggressive. We want to get up and down.
That was Adrian Autry in his initial press conference back on March 10th when he took over as head coach at Syracuse University. Talked about being aggressive, talked about being dynamic. Hopefully tonight I can do that for you. Welcome to the Dawg podcast. I'm your host, Matt DeBritz. So it's been kind of a busy ride or wild ride or whatever adjective you want to put in there for Adrian Autry in his first month as the coach of Syracuse. Not even been a month, but he started off hitting the ground running. Got JJ Starling from Notre Dame. Starling is a local kid from Baldwinsville, New York. It's not too far from Syracuse. He's recruited by Autry initially. Mike Bray left Notre Dame, and I think it was only natural for Starling to say, I'm going to come to Syracuse. Soon after that, Judah Mintz said he was going to go test the NBA waters, but keep his college eligibility, so there's still hope that he's going to come back. Prior to that, Symir Torrens and John Boljak said they're going to the transfer portal. Not that much of a surprise. I mean, John Boljak had said that before the season was even over. Symir Torrens wants to get more playing time in his last year. He didn't play that much this year. Probably a little disappointing. I thought he was going to have a better role because he had a good end of the season in the 2021-2022 season. But wish him the best. I think he's a really good point guard if he ever gets an opportunity. One of the bigger surprises was Joseph Girard decided to take off. He is going to test the NBA waters also, but then if he doesn't make it, which I don't think he will transfer. He's going to put himself in the transfer portal. Now, just one thing to keep in mind always is that you can go in the transfer portal and still come back to the school that you went to before. John Boljak did it last year. It's really up to the school if they give away your scholarship or not. So if Girard decides that he wants to come back to Syracuse after all, it's still a possibility. So I don't want to totally rule that out, but it seems to me like he's going to go because he doesn't think there's enough room for him, probably with Starling and maybe Mintz and now Bell and Williams coming back. So I don't think Girard's going to come back, but he still possibly could. It just depends between the school and him. So just because the players in the transfer portal doesn't mean that they don't return to the school that they initially were at. Just keep that in mind. The next case is Jesse Edwards. Will he come back? And with the rumor of Hunter Dickinson from Michigan, really nice big man, averaging 19 points per game almost. He's been talked about for a few years now at Michigan as a pro prospect. He stayed in college. He's from the DMV area. For some of those people that don't know what that means, Washington, D.C. area. One of the friends of the show, Adam Finkelstein, who was on the show last year, was online today on one of his shows saying that Syracuse is an opportunity, there's a possibility for Hunter Dickinson because of Syracuse new hire, Brenden Straughn, who was a coach at Team Takeover, which is the AAU team in the DMV area. Dickinson was part of that. And Straughn has got ties more in DMV, and also he coached at George Washington last year. So maybe that move by Autry was hoping that Dickinson was going to come in the portal. Maybe not. Maybe it's a coincidence. Who knows? But it could be a good move. And if Dickinson comes to Syracuse, then you can probably bet that Edwards is probably not going to come back. Or if Edwards doesn't come back, maybe Dickinson will come. We don't know. So that's kind of the crux of the team right now. I think, all the guys he's gotten back, Bell, to me is a guard. I've said this many times, plays more like a guard, shoots from the outside, shoots jumpers. Doesn't mean he can't drive, doesn't mean he couldn't drive or develop a post-up game, maybe. But he was always getting bagged on for not rebounding, but because he's not really a rebounder, he's a guard. And could you imagine if they end up playing zone defense with Chris Bell at the top of the zone, a 6'7" guy with long arms like that? That's what the zone was humming. Well, that's how the zone was humming back in the day, with guys that were taller guards, 6'4" and bigger with longer arms. Starling fits that mold. So does Judah Mintz. And if Chris Bell's going to play guard, so does he. And so does Justin Taylor. I haven't mentioned Justin Taylor. I haven't heard anything from him like that he's leaving or staying, but I'm assuming he's going to stay. He would be a great guy to come off the bench, hit some threes. I think he'll play more next year. My main man, Quadir Copeland, I think is a great candidate for 6th man of the year in the ACC. The guy can play 1, 2, or 3. You saw the signs of him in this last year when he got in the game, where he had affected the game and wasn't in the game. He was the biggest cheerleader. There was a video of him that went viral. He was either playing in some rec league game or a pickup game, and he did this crazy between the legs play to the basket. I'll put the link in the show notes for everybody, but it was incredible. I think that he can pretty much do anything. And, Jim Boeheim talked about him a lot last year, saying that he said one of the press conferences, he scored 20 buckets in a row on the first team. So that guy's got potential. Don't forget about Malik Brown, who made his mark this year by being consistent around the basket. He kind of faltered a little bit towards the end of the season, but I expect him to be back and better next season. Will he be coming off the bench? Will he start? Doesn't really matter. I think he'll get playing time. And Hema, not great on offense, but great on defense. And I think regardless of who they bring in, Syracuse that is, they've got a nice second unit. And I think Autry's talked about getting aggressive and moving fast and getting after it. I think having a deep bench will just help a team like that. I think the team will play fast. I think they'll play man-to-man. I think they'll mix it up and play zone. I think they'll press. And I think having an abundance of guys will really help them next season.